What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a great Monday. I'm BobbyFi here, going to be doing the True DFS show. We're going to talk through some plays, and boy, this slate has gotten completely out of hand. It's kind of a nightmare, to be honest with you. All this extra stuff, and then still more Q tags, and then now it looks like Drummond's probably going to be out, Kuzma's out. Just a lot of stuff that we have to sort of sift through here. So pop in your questions, pop in your thoughts as you go. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of what I want to do. The guys who are the most automatic plays, I think, are Derek White, Tobias Harris, Shake Milton. I still like, I do like, if you're not going to play Milton, I do like the idea of getting some Maxey. I still like the Garland-LeBron combo, and we have value enough to do it. I think it's a really good way to go. I do still like McCollum. And then we have all the slew of value and middle value and stuff that we have to discuss, like Portland without Josh Hart. Kind of hard not to have a little bit of interest in Justice Winslow for me, as well as Chris Dunn. But Chris Dunn, there's just so many good guards. I don't know where I'm going to end up with him because I don't necessarily like him better than these other situations. And I think you could make an argument for a guy like, Peyton Pritchard over him, who might play the same amount of minutes or might even get more depending on how that Boston OKC game goes. Definitely going to have obviously a lot lower ownership. So I don't know, just something to think about. It's a really, really tough slate. Those are the guys who I'm prioritizing. I am going to get exposure to Kyle Lowry, as I mentioned earlier, much less on to Jimmy Butler than I was before, with those other guys out. But I do still like Lowry going back home, especially on FanDuel. I still like the Chicago guys, but I'm not getting to them quite as much as I originally was because it's a little easier to spend all the way up. I still think Toronto has got some guys you can take shots on, Chris Boucher and Achua being my favorite. And I never mind, without Gary Trent, either any of Van Vliet, Siakam, Barnes. I like Luka and LeBron as my favorite spend ups. I don't mind if you want to drop down and play Tatum or Kevin Durant. And those are sort of the main pieces that we're talking about. Like, I'm fine with Cade. I'm fine with Bagley. They don't need to be in all my lineups because there's just too many good plays today. I'm fine with the guy I like is Patrick Beverley. No one seems to be on that one. You can run that back with your Luka stack or your Luka game, your Luka plays or whatever. So there's really a lot of different ways to go today, and that's just the guys who I'm sort of prioritizing overall. But let's see what you got, and let's see what we got. I would say you'd be making a mistake probably not to play two Sixers on FanDuel in the lineup. I think the Sixers, you probably cut off the limit at 3, but I think 2 is a good way to go. And Harris and either Maxey or Milton would be my choice. Thanks, Dunbar. Appreciate that, Dunbar. Always good to hear from you. I do like Justice Winslow a little bit. Yeah, I just said that one. The slate is completely out of control. So we're just going to do our best to slowly try and get some projections updated. Nicholas Claxton is probably going to be a major play because we have no Andre. Looks like we're not going to have Andre Drummond. So I think Claxton is going to be a difficult fade if you're going to try to make that one. Dragic, we need to know if he plays and see what else that does. I don't know that I'm going to want to get other exposure, but I do think Dragic is in play if he plays. But not overly excited about the other ones in that game. I do think that Claxton is going to start projecting through the roof. Maybe you could play James Johnson as an interesting sort of pivot off of that, but you're going to want some size in there against Gobert, which does make Rudy Gobert just a phenomenal play. He's in like 30% of my lineups on DK right now. I actually have him in like 15% on FanDuel. I just think he's a phenomenal tournament play. That game's got a good environment. You can include Mitchell and Durant to get a stack going that way. I think that's a reasonable way to go. And then this first game that no one's really on as much, the McCollum or Joval, more so on FanDuel than DraftKings, keep in mind, but both of those guys make a lot of sense separately. And running it back with a very unowned Rozier, Ball, or Bridges, I think is kind of an interesting way to go because the game environment's so great. So that's sort of the general pieces that I'm working between. Obviously, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are great plays for Boston. Al Horford and Derek White's the priority, but Horford kind of worries you a little bit that maybe the game gets a little out of hand. And by the way, revenge is not a thing in this case, but he still could have a good game, obviously, without Robert Williams there. I think you're going to want, the way I would say, if you're looking at things, I'd say 1 Boston minimum. I'd say at least 1 minimum, 1 or 2 probably. I would probably lean more towards 2 with Philly. Even though the matchup sucks, it's just you're taking away Embiid and Harden. I mean, you basically got to do something with this. One or two from Philly. I would say the other one we're going to have to watch out for, the Kuzma thing, is kind of interesting because it does make everybody else more in play. But the guy who might get, maybe we just go right back to Thomas Satoransky. He's at least got forward eligibility, and he put up 33. I know he's not going to make all of his shots again, but he put up 33 in the last game and played well. It helped to lead them to a win. And you'd think that they would treat it like that again with Kuzma out. It's just hard because they have so many of those minimum-ish guys, and they can play all of them, and none of them necessarily need to get there, but probably at least one does. But one Boston, one or two from Philly, probably more like two in most lineups. And again, you can play two for Boston, three for Boston. I don't have a problem with that either, just depending on your builds. I think Portland, you could argue that you'd want to play one player from Portland, but I don't think you need to. I could say the same about Toronto. Really the main ones are getting one or two from Boston, getting probably two or three from Philly as a starting point is the way you should look. Now, the problem is I'm just now getting an updated projection on Detroit with all these guys out, and that's going to make Bagley look a little better. That's going to make Killian Hayes look solid. I actually think Killian Hayes is kind of interesting. Played pretty well when he had minutes lately, and there's another pivot off of Dunn. I guess he might even be as high owned as Dunn. I just don't think his projections are going to love him as quite as much, but he's been pretty solid lately. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go through here, a lot to get to. I'm interested to see when Sheets comes on here, when he updates his projections, because I think there's a lot to go over. I think Saddiq Bey is fine. I just, as a rule, pretty much no matter how good the matchup is, when you have someone who's so shooting reliant in a game that you also could get out of hand and you have a high projected ownership, I would rather fade that than play that in general. And that's what Saddiq Bey is. Like, he made 10 threes the other day, so he scored 70 fantasy points and 50 real life points. Can he do that? Sure. Is it going to happen most of the time? No, not even close. I actually think Killian Hayes is probably going to be the answer. By the way, one Detroit. I think Hayes is going to be the guy I probably end up using a little bit of, which Gulp makes me a little bit nervous. But Bagley, Bagley, Cunningham, Bay, all those guys are solid plays. I just don't think anybody's a must by any means. So I personally am not going to be on the side of playing Saddiq Bey tonight, but I am okay if someone does. I think Shea is a good get off the board guy to answer that question. But I don't see it like. I actually do think it's pretty interesting. It's pretty awful matchup for him, but everybody else knows that too. And his price being where it is, like, this guy just basically gets there or near there all the time. And these are some of these games are blowouts where they're playing. Even against Miami last time in a blowout, like he plays 32 minutes only, which is for him is very little, and puts up 45 fantasy points against the best defense in the NBA. So yeah, I think I can get behind Shea. I definitely like him less on FanDuel, but I can get behind it. I like Luka. Again, I just went through all my plays, Kevin. I like Luka fine. I like Luka and LeBron as my favorite spend ups, but I'm sort of interested in the 9K range a lot too, with when you get the Tatums, the McCollums, the Darius Garland. So just depends on how you're building. But I do like Luka always. It's just he's a little bit worse than he was from a DFS perspective with all these guys available. But I do like him, and he's easy enough to get in now. So don't buy the projections being so low on him. I mean, it is interesting that since Dinwiddie got there, I think he's only – I don't think he's cracked 70 since Dinwiddie got there, and he's hit 60 twice. Unless Dinwiddie was there for that first game against Utah. And then they also didn't have Brunson for some of those games too. So Luka's probably a little bit of a worse play than he was a few weeks back, but still definitely in play. I guess Dinwiddie did play that, and Brunson didn't play that one. Okay. But yeah, he's absolutely fine. I will probably be here till about 6:15 because I have to go through a bunch of lineups with all this stuff. Kuzma's out, by the way, Eric Johnson, so I don't have any thoughts on Kuzma. Favorite FanDuel spend ups in order: LBJ, Luka, Garland. Luka, because the price, just the discounted price is hard to ignore. LBJ, Garland are all good ones. I like all of those. So I'm looking at my FanDuel lineups to try and make sure that supports that. And I do like all of those guys as spend ups. I don't mind getting into a little bit of Durant at low ownership. I really like Tatum. Tatum is probably a safer play than Garland, but I like Garland just as much. And you get to use him as a forward. DeRozan's another really good one, but he's not a spend all the way up. McCollum's a really good one, not a spend all the way up. Mitchell, a really good one, not a spend all the way up. Cade Cunningham, a really good one that you don't need to spend all the way up. Those are the other guys who I'm looking at over on FanDuel. And by the way, if you want to play, if you're playing like the 150 stuff on DK, I would include a little Saban Lee in your builds, even if he doesn't start, which I'm guessing he probably won't. All right, so let's get back to it. I'm going to take a quick look and see if there's any other questions right here popping in. Yang with some minutes, and if you guys want to play Yang, if he gets announced like starting for some reason, yeah, fine. I don't think it's anything I'm going to do. I mean, you have a guy who's incredibly unproductive per minute. The price is nice. The minutes will be somewhat there. It's fine. Definitely not a guy who I've come across in my builds, but he's completely fine. But I could say that about every single player who's going to get run on Philly. Like literally every one of them is fine. The guys who are priorities are on DraftKings, it's going to be Milton and Harris. On FanDuel, it'll be Milton, Harris, and Maxey. That's the way it should go. All right, let's see what else we got. If he doesn't sit, no, I'm not really interested in Seth anymore. There's just too much other stuff out there. Like Seth can get there, sure, but I just don't think I'm gonna be able to get to it. I might have it in like one long shot tournament or something. If Dragic is out, I think you can bump him up a little bit. But remember, we see all games without Durant too, and he's still. It's not like a guarantee. I do think Curry's in play. Remember, we did see him not get there with Durant and Kyrie out a couple times. So just keep that in mind. Justice Winslow, we already talked about that one. See if I missed any other questions. And it doesn't look like I did. Okay, here's one from no, you said Hayes was the DraftKings or both sites. It's the same play. It doesn't really make a difference. Probably a little worse. He's the reason why he's not a great play is I guess his price is higher on FanDuel. You can play him. I don't know what else to say. He's 3,800 versus 43 versus 38. Definitely not a guy you're prioritizing, but a guy you might want to mix into some tournament lineups. If Cat sits or the minute, yes, you want to play the Minnesota guys if Cat sits. Don't really know what to do with that one. We've got too much actual news for me to try to speculate over the top on that. Because then if you're wrong, what are you doing exactly with the guys you're going to be thin on? So. I'm not as look, if Cat's out, obviously if I knew that I would play Edwards and Russell or one of those guys in a lot of my lineups, but I just can't. I don't think we need to get weird and speculate when we just got like every bit of value in the world. 2 to 3 Boston guys. I just mentioned that, Eric, that's what you should be playing, 2 or 3 Boston guys in your lineups. It's really funny because I can't tell if people are on delay and not seeing the questions. Or maybe we're that much in sync. It's pretty cool if we can we're saying the same things. But that was what I touched on. I do think you start your lineups probably with a player from Boston, at least one, probably more, probably 2, at least from Philly. You can go more there too. And probably you want one of the Detroit guys, but you don't need to have one of the Detroit guys. The other ones are just the automatic ones. That's how I'm going to do it. Westbrook, you can get a little bit of on FanDuel, but I don't think there's any reason to go out of your way to play Westbrook tonight. Jovel, better play on FanDuel. I already talked about him. And I think he gets played off the court in these games quite a bit, or he smashes. So I don't mind playing him. Sheets, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on?
Oh, just apparently it's just they decided to mess with us on this slate and just sit everybody.
What? Anything in the last 20 minutes?
I can't keep track of every timing on everything, but everything's different. So I don't know. Yeah, probably.
I just need to know if I need to redo my stuff as of 15 minutes ago. So
yeah, probably. Because I don't even think the projections came in for me, at least until just now, on Detroit, Washington with no Kuzma.
Oh, real? Yeah, I got to do all this different stuff. Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean everybody's.
I might pull an Antonio Brown again soon. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, well, that means everybody. We can't leave everybody helpless. I'll stay on as long as I can, but I've got a good.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. The guys who are gonna, I think like I think people are going to jump to. I think Rui is actually another one that we can play from Washington. Wasn't especially good the last time we had the situation with Kuzma out against the Lakers the other day, or yeah, I guess it was 2 days ago. But yeah, Rui is another one that is his projection is just crazy. So that's the other one is the Washington. I think you can include Satoransky in those guys. It's a very tough slate. It's very
Kuzma's out. All right, great, lovely. Okay.
Kuzma's out. Drummond's probably out, which means Claxton again. But Drummond is still listed as doubtful, so I don't have his projection removed. But Claxton obviously becomes a solid one. Yeah. Shoot. Obviously, there's the Boston stuff and everything, but that's where I'm starting from. Is a lot of my lineups you're going to see you're going to probably see one player from Washington, one player from Detroit. Probably, and Detroit's not absolutely necessary, but I'm probably going to force a couple one guy in or so.
Who's out for Detroit?
All the guys who were questionable earlier.
Okay, but not Cunningham or anything. Okay.
No. Corey Joseph, Kelly Olynyk. Okay. So just it's an upgrade for everybody who's in for them. I think Killian Hayes is probably what I would end up doing. Not the most exciting one, but
what do you think of the Celtics?
It's Derek White is number one, and I think you could make a really good case in tournaments to play Peyton Pritchard instead, especially with the potential game flow. I think that Grant Williams is a very solid play, which feels weird to say out loud, and maybe very solid. He was a more solid play than he is now. We don't know whether Neesmith is even available, so that could open up even more for Pritchard. I like Horford more on FanDuel. I think I like Horford a little better than the projections do, but don't love the ceiling part of it. And then Tatum and Jaylen Brown are also just good plays anyway. So that's what I've got with Boston.
Getting Isaiah Livers.
I mean, then if we're like that's my thinking on this is like if we're gonna start doing stuff like that, we've got to have a really good reason to do it, because why are we trying to force in and create fake value when there's tons of value? You know what I mean? Like,
is that fake value?
You have a guy coming off the bench most likely who's might play 18 minutes.
Okay, fair enough.
Saban Lee would be the better play to me than Livers.
Okay,
they're both speculate. You're speculating on both, and you speculate on guards too. Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin are in, which we expected.
Oh wow, that's cool. Someone's playing.
Someone's actually playing. Can you believe it?
Someone's playing. Is LeBron out yet?
LeBron's in.
Okay.
But Taylor Horton Tucker's out, which is
not really go.
Yeah. But it does give LeBron maybe even a little bit more usage if that's possible. Rui on FanDuel. Rui's like, look, I'm looking at the projections on Rui, and they love him. I think that I'm the one who always plays Rui at no ownership, or always used to, I should say. I don't know if I'm buying this projection on him. I do think he's totally in play, as is Satoransky. But I mean, we just had the same situation. Satoransky played more minutes, had more fantasy points, he made all of his shots, so that helps. But had a higher production and higher usage. So it feels a little fishy to just throw Rui in on, to me, but I definitely am fine with it. And you do get the forward eligibility with Satoransky, but I'm definitely going to have some Rui. I just feel like these projections are kind of like, I don't know. I did not expect to see the 10x projection or whatever, not 10x, 8x or whatever it is on him. Are you getting the same thing for Rui around 28 fans?
I just started updating them. I'll let you know when that's a later game, sort of.
Yeah. LeBron's in, by the way, guys. Don't worry. They announced him in. So if he's out, it's just a random weird thing. We could just say that about any player. But LeBron, they said he's in. Claxton or DeAndre Jordan. Don't like either. Don't like Jordan. You can of course play him. He's 3.3K. But Claxton, if Drummond's out, is about 1,000 times the play that Jordan is, in my opinion. I honestly don't know what to expect from DeAndre Jordan. He can get there. He actually does pretty well per minute, but how many minutes are they really going to play him anyway?
Yeah.
Even in a matchup where you need a big, let's
go back to basics for a second. So Joel Embiid is out, right?
Embiid, Harden are out. Yeah.
Okay. Wait, Harden is out?
Yeah. He's been out. He's been out since like noon.
Lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why you kind of have to play these Philly guys. That's why Tobias Harris is going to be 60-something% owned, 70-something% owned probably.
And what about Maxey? Is he probably
Milton? It's Milton then Maxey for me on both sites, but I like both of them.
It's so funny. Like it's like every single day we say this. It's like, well, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen, but you wait.
I never say that. I say every day that something's going to happen. Yeah. I was shocked the one day when we had remember we had the one day with no news. It freaked me out. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was
the calm before the storm. It seems.
Yeah, it's just you're ready for it. Waterford or Eubanks, I don't like. It definitely let me just check the FanDuel pricing. I think that those questions are interesting on these slates because I don't know why we're getting to them, why you're getting to them. So I'm going to double check my FanDuel exposures because it doesn't feel like the kind of slate where we want to start. It would be Eubanks for me for sure, but to be honest, I don't think I have any of either of them.
I like that. I like that tournament on FanDuel today. That 150.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I hate it kind of because I have to rebuild all my stuff after the show, so it's it's easier for scripting. But when I'm doing these things, I can't do it all together at once.
Oh, I'm playing 6 lineups. I thought I was playing a lot.
Yeah, I'm playing 10. Okay, 6 is a lot.
Yeah.
But I got a 3,100 on DraftKings tonight, so it's
let's go! All right.
That's the one. But the
That's
problem
what I'm talking about.
this is starting to feel like a very strange.
This is some slate for that.
Yeah. I don't. So to answer what Kobe's saying here, he says he's pivoting off Rui to Denny. I think that's actually interesting. I'm personally more on the maybe give Satoransky at no ownership a shot, but I don't mind that.
Anything on Van Vliet?
He's playing.
Okay.
But Gary Trent's out, and so is.
That's all. Okay.
Yeah, well, Gary Trent's out, which is going to make Precious a better play because he tends to actually get a lot of that run, and you could argue that Boucher is a really good play as well. That's the thing. There's so many guys that are good plays, so it's it just feels kind of funny to say that there are locks of any kind, tonight because there's just there's so many different ways to build. I even think this ownership. I'll probably play Tobias Harris in my highest buy-in tournament on DraftKings, but I probably won't be playing much of him elsewhere just because it's a way to, I want to get off the 60% ownership, but I think he's safe enough for a high buy-in small field tournament.
Wonder what the spread is on that game now.
On
the Philly game.
9 for Miami, I think. That was my favorite bet of the day too. Was Philly plus was Miami? I think was it minus or plus 2.5? I think it might have been minus 2.5, but that was with everybody playing. I've got it as only 7 right now, which is kind of seems pretty low. All right, what was the last part? I'm trying to answer the last thing. Oh, favorite center on FanDuel for my man K9 Bronco. In order, well, all the best plays are mostly power forward eligible as well. The Bagley, the Horfords. Vucevic is too cheap, so he's a good one, but he's obvious. Boucher. I don't mind getting the Precious over there where he'll be low owned.
You say Booth is obvious, but I'm telling you, that's in slates like this, it's wild. Sometimes these plays end up just not getting owned for some reason.
Yeah. Well, he still projects like crazy, and he's the only as a center eligible play at 7,100. He's the only center eligible play other than Joval that you could really argue for, I think, on FanDuel.
All right. So I did update the projections. All right. So on DraftKings, leading the charge, as you mentioned, not with 10x, but with 7.5x, I have Rui Hachimura.
Yeah.
At 29 fantasy points. Next, I have Derek White. And then you mentioned Killian Hayes.
You don't have Shake Milton on there.
He's coming soon.
Okay.
Then I have, it's kind of close with Grant Williams, Ish Smith, Shake Milton, DeAndre Jordan, who you already mentioned, and there Chris Dunn is still hanging out, and Denny. As far as points per dollar stuff, then you have kind of Bagley and Tobias Harris is. Whoa, that is some. I didn't realize that is some price tag on Tobias Harris, huh? 6,400.
It's cheaper than we've seen him.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, he was 5,500 on FanDuel.
Was he really? I didn't even know that.
You know he is right now.
Oh
5,500 on FanDuel. DraftKings, but he's with the other guys playing, he's legitimately like a 4,800 player. Like he doesn't have any.
Let me see what FanDuel looks like. Let me see if there's any difference over there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, look at Tobias. Yeah, he's a rough one.
Be a bazillion percent owned.
And I'll tell you who else looks like he's going to be like. I have it like 45% is ownership is Tyrese Maxey.
Yep.
I have those two as the two highest owned on FanDuel. Tobias Harris and Maxey. Yeah,
what's weird about the Harris thing is I think because of his price and because of the way people will build, they won't play any Justice Winslow tonight. And I just want to go back to that. I think Justice Winslow is a really, really good play, and I think you could play those two guys together. And I think Justice Winslow is almost always between 30 and 45 here, and he's 5,500. So you can play both of those guys as your forwards there. Vucer Gobert, I like Gobert better, but he's a lot more expensive on FanDuel. But I do like Gobert as an awesome tournament play. I just think he's a fantastic play tonight, especially not that Drummond's a horrible defender, like he's a god awful, but at least he has some size. Now you're going to try and put Claxton up with him. I mean, just the rebounding alone should be monstrous. I guess they might even try James Johnson. That's probably what they'll do. They'll probably play a lot of the game with James Johnson at the 5 so they can try and spread him out, sort of like the Clippers did in the postseason to him last year. That actually makes a lot of sense.
That's a big call, man, if you're right on that.
Did we get news about Drummond? Because I don't have him as well. I don't know if I'm going to do it. Yeah, doubtful. Okay, I've got him still as doubtful. Which is, as you guys know who have followed the NBA, doubtful means 98%, 99-ish% that they're out. I don't really like Jimmy Butler anymore. I don't see the need to do it. There's just too many other plays that have been upgraded. I do like Kyle Lowry still.
You're coming up with some good low. I mean, these are some good low owned shots here. I don't think people are playing like a lot of the guys that you've recently mentioned, and that's going to be you could be the 3180. Is there any shares left on that on the State Kings or no?
Fortunately, no.
Shit. Okay.
I guess fortunately no, but unfortunately no.
Right, I get it.
Yeah.
That's like a Bobby special, like taking a shot with guys like James Johnson in the 3100.
I just don't know if I could do it though because of how good the other value is. That's the thing. Is I could see them playing the game that way, but it feels very weird to try and make that play. I'm sort of surprised that Claxton. They must be in between updating his numbers because he should have a higher projection than he does. I think.
Let's see. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to do a little more of a drill down into that in a second. Hold on a minute.
And you also run the risk with Claxton of the foul trouble. Jaylen Brown or Sadiq Bey. It's Jaylen Brown for me, but the Sadiq Bey thing, like I like Sadiq Bey, but I really am confused what everyone's doing. Like, because the guy made 10 out of 14 threes in a game, now we want to load him up. Like when
that's a bad idea. That's usually a bad idea.
Yeah, you were getting him at 1% before that game happened. Because it was the only NBA game of the night, and maybe people I guess most people watching the tournament, but still, it just feels kind of weird. Like it is a great matchup. I'd be arguing for him as a tournament play, but at 20% plus ownership probably, or somewhere in that range, it just feels like what are we doing? I don't know. So that's my thinking on him.
I still like Garland, by the way.
Love Garland. With you there. Garland and LeBron are my main pairing.
That's where I'm falling short. Is I'm really not getting to LeBron tonight now anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I think that what I'm just looking at it, LeBron's ownership is so low. Like
I know
projections don't love him. I don't need to do anything all that creative, and especially in a big buy-in small field. If that's the
you just need to not play Luka, right? I mean, like.
Yeah, that's that, and that Luka will be in my other lineups.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Like Tobias Harris, I'll have him in my big one. I probably won't have him in my other ones. Rui Hachimura would be a guy like it. Does feel really weird, this Rui thing. This projection can't be. What are you getting? So you have him as the highest.
I told you I was getting like 7x on him.
Just weird because we literally just had this situation come up. It was a back-to-back though. I don't know. That's a tough one. It's a good matchup for everybody.
Have he ever really done it for us? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. He has for me. I mean, because he puts up 30 fantasy points and then you're good. Like, but tonight that's not You know what I mean? Because some of these guys are going to put up 35 or 40.
Right.
Obvious.
Let me see my FanDuel build looks like. So who am I going to come up with FanDuel? I'm going to end up. I'm building right now. So it's going to be Tobias Harris. It's going to be Cade Cunningham. What else is it going to be? You tell me. You probably can tell me right now what the lineup's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to tell you that stuff. I'm a little lower on Cade because of the ownership today than everyone else seems to be. But you're going to get Jason Tatum, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, Derek White will be like the main guys you get.
Yeah, I in 9 lineups. You got in 9. I built 6 lineups because I'm doing 6. I have 4 guys in all of them. I have Luka, Tobias Harris, Maxey, and Derek White.
Yeah, and Luka is really hard not to play on FanDuel because of that thing. Yeah. But you could play Luka with LeBron on FanDuel. That's kind of interesting. You do have enough to do something like that. And it's weird to have LeBron rated that high, but you could also just as easily. I mean, Tatum is right there at 9,200. It's just too cheap. But also you've got the our other guy who's helpful. I think there's an argument to be made with a Gobert, Mitchell, Durant stack, just because of the ownership. You know what I mean? It's just no one's going to play these guys, and maybe that's the time we'd want to lean on it. If it was the first game without Kyrie or something, he would be like 35% owned. But because we haven't really seen him have that monster fantasy output, he's going to end up being like 10% owned or less, maybe. KD or LBJ? I just answered all that question, so that's the best way I can ever put it. So I can't re-answer that one. Edwards plays well against Dallas. Edwards is just a streak guy. I mean, you could speculate because there's always a chance that Towns is out tonight, and you could play Edwards, and you're very live even if not. So I'm always going to be on board with Edwards in tournaments. Always. It's just he always can get there. That it's just when he's going to be 1,000,000% owned is the only time I wouldn't do that. Any shares of Kelly Oubre? That name did not come even like the slightest bit across anything I've had. I would go so far as to say that playing Kelly Oubre, regardless of results, remember, Kelly Oubre has trended out of their rotation for the most part. Got a bunch of minutes in one game that I believe was a blowout, but I'd have to double check my numbers. It's just a long shot wild card play that has no real basis that you just want game exposure. I have no interest in Kelly Oubre on this kind of a slate. I think it'd be a terrible play. Now, can he go out there and put up 35 randomly? Yeah, but that's exactly what you're asking for, just some sort of random experience that has nothing to do with logic, in my opinion. Now he's going
I presume you're getting a lot of, I don't know if you presume anything. You get Marvin Bagley?
Yeah, I like that. I like Bagley. I don't think it's an automatic lock, though. I think there's a lot of ways to separate from him. And I'm going to be for 2 more minutes to answer a few more questions, and then I gotta actually build these things because everything is different.
Oh, that'd be fun. I can't. I want to sweat that.
Oh, hopefully there's a sweat to be had.
Yeah, I have practice from like 8 to 10. Then I'll be back. And
really?
Be like it'll be over. It'll be over.
Yeah, it'll be right at the end. Perfect timing.
Yeah, let me know if you're deep.
All right, I will for sure. All right, I think the questions have dried up. But everybody, Sheets will take you through his thing and while he's doing his build. And good luck to everyone tonight. We appreciate you all. And Sheets, good luck, buddy. Have a good one.